Welcome to the Plus One with Minxie podcast, guys. It's been a while. It's been a while. A lot has changed for me in my life. That's why I took quite a bit of a hiatus. As you guys know, there are no take twos. Well, okay. Technically, there's going to be a take two because I did publish a podcast on the 1st. And that was a goal date that I set for myself. But I felt like that just really wasn't what I wanted to say and my reintroduction. So let me explain to you guys some things that have changed. August 15th, 2022, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke in the shower at a hotel. It was one of the most traumatic and painful experiences of my life. I will talk a little bit about that. I want to dedicate a whole episode to that, but I need to formulate how I want to say it emotionally. I want to make sure that I have what is available for public consumption to talk about hemorrhagic stroke, how to recognize and just the medical aspect of it. Definitely not a substitute for medical advice. And I will tell you, hemorrhagic stroke is one of the rarest types of stroke. It is the rarest type of stroke. There are two types, ischemic and hemorrhagic. So there's not a lot of research because there are not a lot of survivors of the first episode, even less people who live to 3 months, even less who live 5 months. Very rare to live another year, and within 3 years, a very small percentage of survivors. So I've made my year. Some things that have changed in my ability to communicate is me doing what you hear now. So sometimes I'm trying to recover language, meaning I'm searching for what the quick word is to describe an emotion, sentiment, object. And maybe I lost that. So you'll hear me do a little more rambling. I'm not as confident, which is one of the reasons I'm not streaming. I've always been really efficient in language and communication, adapting to situations and being able to talk in public before one person to hundreds of people. But now I do struggle with language recovery, and sometimes I'll lose my train of thought. Now that might not be so new. I've always been a talker, and I'm recognizing why I used to talk a lot with certain people, and it's definitely rooted in trauma. It's my protection, and also I always felt like I needed to defend myself, explain, and give details of things, trying in a search for understanding. This feels right. You guys hear the jets in the background. I don't know what's going on, but there's always jets flying overhead. So as always, my podcast is going to be really organic. In the past, I did attempt to have guests, and I appreciate them taking their time out. But I learned that when I do have guests, and this is not my first time doing a podcast, not my own podcast, but on other people's or hosting theirs for them in the interim. I learned that when I do have guests, just as I do in life, I try to make sure they're comfortable. And maybe I might not agree with everything that they're saying because I maybe know them personally. And, and then that causes me to not be as organic and sincere. So I want to make sure that this is true to what I want to do for a podcast. And that is to have you guys as my plus one as I navigate physical wellness, relationships, trauma healing journeys, parenting, and just life, you know. And I hope my goal is to maybe make one person, my plus one, feel understood, feel hopeful, and feel like today they're not going to give up. Okay. Okay, you guys also remember I do have braces. I do have braces. So, hey, you're going to get what you're going to get. Like I said, a lot has changed. I have been going through this stroke recovery. There's some things I will want to talk about. And if you interact with me on social media, please, please, please be considerate and thoughtful, mindful of not using phrases like, wow, I'm glad to see you recovered. Oh, your stroke must not have been that bad. First of all, every stroke is bad. Every stroke is bad. How people internalize it and deal with it, whether there's a little bit of denial or miraculous recovery, it's still bad. So the reason that some people feel like I just made a miraculous recovery is because they didn't see me at my lowest. In the age of social media, we're used to seeing people drooling, unconscious, bleeding, not able to walk, having seizures, convulsions, because everything is on display. But I'm going to tell you this. The reason you didn't see me unconscious in neuro ICU, throwing up on myself, having convulsions, is because I was alone. I had nobody. My children, my family, my mom, my father, my siblings, they weren't there. My cousins weren't there. My so-called friends I've made over the years and been there for them, not there. My ex-husband, my ex-lovers who have literally, like recently, I even had an ex call me in tears, had other people calling me, even his ex-girlfriend, saying he needs you. He's going through something. He wanted us to find you. And I jumped on a plane, not out of love, like not out of romantic love, out of this person is finally doing the thing that they need to do to take care of themselves. I had an ex that struggled with alcoholism, extreme alcoholism since he was a child. And he has a lot of issues. And he had finally, I wouldn't say finally he's been in and out of rehab, but it literally almost killed him, killed him, you know? And we definitely had like a codependent relationship, not me being the codependent, him. I tend to attract narcissists, codependents, incels, and just men who were in need of remothering. I'm a nurturer, I'm a lover, and I'm a healer. And they weren't necessarily romantic relationships I wanted. They were absolutely not romantic relationships I wanted. But fellow empaths, you'll get what I'm saying. It wasn't, I want to say you can be manipulated, because I was completely aware of what their need of me was. It was the remothering. It was the person who's going to love and nurture and support them and encourage them. But that can be draining. That can destroy you mentally, physically, and spiritually, because it's not a romantic love. It's not a like, this is my dream person that I want to be with. It's more of a, oh my God, how do I get out of this? But I also want to help them get to a safe place mentally and physically and spiritually. Oh my God, I guess I'll just stay a little while longer. That's not good. I'm changing as a human being. Some ways for the better, some ways for the indifferent, and some ways out of trauma and spiritually. Now, my new me is not going to turn away because somebody is in need. But my new me is going to say, oh, you're suicidal? Oh, where are you? And the new me is going to call the police and ask him to send a mental health officer. The old me would sit on the phone and talk to you, talk you back to life. If it took 2 days, the old me would be over there. Oh, come here, honey. No, the new me is going to do what is morally correct, but also what's best for my own awareness. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about relationships. And relationships to me is not just romantic relationships. It can be friendships, workplace relationships, familial relationships, you name it, guys. These are just my perspectives, my experiences, and I'm not offering any advice on what you should do. I believe in free thought. And all I'm going to challenge you guys to do is to think, question everything, especially the things you see on social media, and experience, research. These are the things I'm going to encourage you guys to do throughout this journey. And I'm going to encourage myself to do that as well. This year, I spent 3 years of really self-isolation for my own mental health and safety. And I really was just frustrated and jaded with humanity as a whole, and also my interpersonal relationships. After I had a stroke, well, honestly, before I had the stroke, I started to separate myself from every human being that was toxic in my life. The only people I couldn't separate myself from were my children. And after I had the stroke and I stayed in ICU for a month by myself, I changed a lot. I started to realize, well, I always realized all I had was me. That's who I could count on. And I went into rehabilitation and I did learn to walk again. It wasn't documented. Nobody was there to take a picture of my first step. So for the people who say things like, well, I guess yours wasn't that bad, it's because that moment for me was not being exploited by the people that should have been there. And I do believe there's a certain amount of exploitation when people are posting their sick kids or their relatives. If a person cannot mentally or verbally give consent, y'all stop doing that for likes and for money and for GoFundMe's, okay? Stop doing that. Wait till that person can give consent. It's frustrating. So only God knows what I went through. The rehabilitation knows what I went through. The hospital itself, which was Banner Desert, was traumatic. The staff was horrible. The care I got was horrible. And very violating. This is not a singular experience for me. And I'm going to be using my podcast to call out some experiences that I had and have had. Healthcare for Black women in America is horrible. It's a reason why we're dying more than any other race. I've just survived. It's not the first time I've almost died due to medical negligence, okay? And I will get a little more into that. It's one of the reasons that I decided to go back to school and pursue a law degree. I will be working with a disability. There is disability services for me, and they're willing to also work with my neurology, which honestly isn't that A1 either. Honestly, I feel like all they do is just give me medication. but they haven't had a dialogue to me about what portion of my brain is damaged, what the perspective is, um, anything like that. It's more like, oh, here's another prescription. Here's another prescription. And I'm going to talk about that as well, like the dependency and the over medication. Now, I choose not to have any narcotic medication. I took myself off of those. Um, I did. But so I live with a lot of pain. I have been living with pain, physical pain from undiagnosed, incorrectly diagnosed injuries since I was, I guess, 10. And so I live with chronic pain. I mean, I'm talking about, listen, I know my brain can control it. I realized when I was a child that I didn't process pain exactly like everybody else. I do feel some pain. I do feel pain. But I realized that I had the mental capacity to control it. I'm talking about, listen, me and my cousin started a fire in a ditch. Now, you from the South, you know what ditch is. We were burning leaves and it got out of control. And I saw my mom pulling up to my grandma's house and I started trying to put it out with my feet. And I think that's probably when I learned that I could really control pain really, really well. But the fire department did put it out. And I realized that most people probably couldn't survive with the amount of pain that I do live with now. So from top to bottom, on the left side, I do still have pain in my head from the hemorrhagic stroke. So a hemorrhagic stroke is literally when a part of your brain ruptures and it starts to bleed. And you're not supposed to have blood going through your head like that. And so just imagine what it might feel like if your brain got ruptured. Probably like getting shot in the head, except it just never stops. So for 3 weeks, I was in the most excruciating pain ever. And I really couldn't verbalize it. And they knew I was in pain because obviously there's medical equipment and signs that detect symptoms of you being in pain. Like my heart, they were saying, we got to get your heart rate down, sweetie. You're going to die. You're going to have a heart attack. So my heart rate, sweating, convulsions, my blood pressure being extremely high. They knew that I was in pain. They were trying different things. But the problem with that is pain medication works by blocking receptors in your brain. If you have brain damage, and that part of your brain that's damaged is the part that's supposed to react and interact with the medication, you're fucked, okay? So, for 3 weeks, there was nothing, but the blood was starting to reabsorb. And I remember hearing the doctor whispering, just talking to me calmly. I don't know if they knew how much I could understand or hear, but I heard everything. And it was like, this is my first time really talking about it. And it really was the biggest trauma of my life. Like, that was a lot of pain. Like, you wouldn't be amazed that a human body could take that type of pain. It's like, imagine somebody stabbing you in your head repeatedly and just turning the knife, but you don't die all day. You don't die. You feel it all day. The only people I think who could really understand, and they said some of the worst pain, that is ranked in the top pain that a human body can have. The only people I think who could understand are people who've suffered severe burns and people who have been tortured. Yeah. Yep. That's it. And it was horrific just being trapped inside of your body and not being able to get out of that. And I was conscious of everything that was going on. I did have some hallucinations. I don't know if it was from medication or just the level of pain that I was in. And finally, I remember having something similar and going to the emergency room. And I honestly believe that I might have had a stroke then and they missed it. And I've tried to track those medical records down and they're not recorded correctly. And it says like they're transcribed and it's not correct. Like it doesn't show that I had imaging, and I did. So, and I don't remember exactly what the doctor said to me, but I remember him telling me I had something. He said, you have something, it's like really rare. And he said, if you don't see a neurologist, you're probably going to have this happen again. He said, there's really nothing we can do to stop it. And he said, it also can cause something else, like you can die from it. And I cannot find what it was that he said caused this. So I believe this happened to me before. So, but not like this. Like I had been where I couldn't even walk, and my head was hurting so bad for 2 weeks, and I could barely see. And I remember crawling to my car, and then driving myself to the hospital very slowly, just hurting and just trying to fight through the pain. And I had hurt for weeks. So I kind of feel like I might have had a hemorrhagic stroke before, and it was just missed or some type of, I don't know. He said it was something to do with like my spinal nerves, but he said it affects your brain. So that I don't know. But anyways, that's the only way I can describe the pain. So at some point, as the blood started to absorb a little bit, I became a little more lucid. Like I had episodes of lucidness, even though like I was hurting extremely. Like I couldn't even turn my head, but obviously they had to turn it sometimes. It was horrible. And they would just pack ice on my neck and stuff. All that is connected, your brain, your spinal nerves. I still suffer from pretty bad neck pain. It usually lasts for a couple of months, and then maybe I'll have a week where it just disappeared, which is very weird. And then it comes back. So at some point, I remember saying that I needed Dilaudid because that's what they had gave me the last time. So it's like medical heroin. And that's the only thing that equates to it. It's literally like a medical version of heroin. And they gave it to me. I kept asking. Every time I had lucidness, I would be like, this will work. And the nurse said, I'm going to go and I'm going to make sure that doctor gives it to you. She's like, I'm going to try to get that for you. And she got it. So not all the staff at Banner Desert was horrible. There were some bright lights for me, like the travel nurse. Thank you so much. Who came in and said to me, she said, they haven't bathed you or anything. She's just talking to me. I couldn't talk back. And she said, look at your arm. They had put so many lines in my arm, but they were dead lines and they hadn't even taken them out. And I have a clot risk, so them just leaving those lines in and she pulled them out. I'm scarred up and down my arm, which might look like track marks, but it was from these dry lines, dirty lines, been left in there 2 weeks, not clean, not flush. She took all that out, and I remember her saying, would you want me to just wash you up? And I think I was just crying, and she was like, just tears falling from my eyes. And she was like, don't cry. And she took her time. She cleaned me. She cleaned the bedding, which had not been cleaned. I don't recommend Banner Desert for anybody. And in my experience, it's not exclusive. I honestly wouldn't even tell you guys where I was because I'm really private about where I am, but I'm going to be very vocal about them. Look at the reviews. Those are the people who suffered just as me. I'm going to tell you guys, if you have family that is in the hospital, nursing homes, nonverbal, please make it known that you gonna show up. If you can't show up, call them motherfuckers weekly. Okay? Call them, email, be up there. Let them know that your family not alone. Your friends not alone. Like, please. That's why they take advantage of the people who they see nobody cares about. And I would have never thought that. Like, guys, listen, my family didn't hate me. I didn't think that. I would think I was my siblings' favorite sibling, my aunts and uncles' favorite niece. I was a good friend, and I really didn't think I had a lot of enemies. The way my exes, pretty much all of them, whether they married, got kids with somebody, whatever, the way that they act about me, like go out of their way to make fake pages to follow me or try to contact me because I blocked them, or going by my mom's house to ask about me, writing letters to my mom to try to find me. These are real things. Telling me, like, if I would, like, when I had my business number, oh my God, calling me 15, 20 years later, like, you were the love of my life. And I was like, dude, like, I was 19. You know what I mean? And I would have thought that, like, anybody, especially my last ex, would at the very least make sure my kids was okay. You know what I'm saying? I would have thought my brothers, who I don't rock with, help them start businesses, put my reputation on the line for their bullshit, and spent hours writing code for them, doing graphic arts for them, helping them launch business after business after business after business with no pay, no thanks, no respect for my time, literally sometimes putting my own life at risk to protect them, that my kids would have been okay through my family. So y'all can consider me an orphan. I'm an orphan. Shit. I'm an orphan at this point. My cousins, like, as much as I have given and they have taken from me, how I always had their backs, supporting them while they wanted to go to college, driving them back to school, giving them stuff for school, awarding them for good grades, buying them jewelry, clothes, food, helping them through their bullshit, that my family would have showed up in numbers. So I ain't got no family. Ain't got nobody. I got God and the kids I gave birth to. And even them motherfuckers are shady, okay? The first time they were able to talk to me, they were asking for stuff. So that changed me a lot. But in a way, it freed me to have the relationship I should have. And that's a relationship with God. Okay? And I'll talk about that too. I'll talk about what I saw when I died and why that gave me comfort. And hopefully it'll give you comfort too. If you're facing it. Listen, we can all die today. We can die right now. You know what I mean? And then some of us know that death is imminent. And I'll talk about how it feels to live knowing that you can die any moment. One of my fears is having another hemorrhagic stroke. That was horrific pain. I've been through some pain before, injuries, emotional, physical pain, but this was horrible. And I didn't feel like God was punishing me. I felt like this is penance, you know. I always feel that way now. Like maybe these is things I deserved to get to heaven. And I'll talk about the day and what was going on when I had the stroke. I'll be very open and transparent when I do record. That's what I want to be. Because maybe this is my story. You know? Everybody's told me since I was young, I should write a book. I should write a book. Oh, you speak so well and passionately. You should write a book. And I don't know how to write no book, y'all. But I do know how to be me. And I hope you guys stick along for that journey. So I'm not going to talk just for the sake of talking, to say, hey, I want to do an hour-long podcast. I think I'm good right now. I just wanted to give you guys an insight and welcome you back and give you some gratitude for being on this journey with me. I see the amazing reviews, the kind reviews that you guys have given me on all major platforms. Thank you so much for that. And child, I hope I ain't lost my monetization. I don't see that on here because I'm broke as hell. Make sure you guys are following me on Facebook, Lisa LaFleur. Your likes and comments will help me earn on there. And I do need it, guys, because being disabled ain't cheap. And we'll talk about navigating disability and whether or not you should apply for disability. I haven't yet, but I might. I might. And hopefully I'm going to be returning to school this summer. And I'll talk about that, how it feels going to school with the disability. If you guys have any questions, any insights, anything you want to entertain my views on, you can comment it. And also you can come and find me on Facebook and DM me and let me know. So thank you guys so much. Happy New Year. I want to leave you guys with this. I want you to please nurture yourself. Show yourself some self-care. It's not something that I've ever done. And I'm learning to do that moment by moment. It's been crazy already. 2024 be feeling a little bit like 2023, 22, 21, 20, 19. You get where I'm going with this. And I don't know, sometimes like since the pandemic maybe, it doesn't feel like we're living. It feels like we're living inside of something, if that makes sense, but not like our own lives. And I want us to just find a way to maybe get back to that. So thank you guys for joining me for the Plus One with Minxie podcast. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you.